Hello, welcome to the live stream. I'm hanging out with Dr. Effie, and we're going to have a couple of other people joining us as we go. Oh, here's our friend Rich Turrin, who's joining as well. So let's get into it. Of course, if you've been living under a rock, you won't know what we're talking about. But otherwise, you will have heard all the various musings over a model, AI learning model and engine out of China called DeepSeek, which blew everyone away in the middle of January with some amazing performance in terms of compressed reasoning capabilities and efficiency of the model. And there's been a huge amount of debate about, how they came up with it and all of those things. But maybe Rich, welcome, by the way, and Effie, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, how are you? How are you, Rich? Oh, Rich is setting up his tech as we speak, so we will get to him in a moment.
I have to react to what you said already, Brett, and I wonder if DeepSeek was not a Chinese startup, if there would have been so many headlines and so much upheaval, if you want, around this topic. I wonder if it had come out of the Western world and out of the US, where most of this innovation and most of the investments are happening, whether, non-techies like us or others would have been absolutely talking about this, posting, commenting, and so on. So I think
this is. I mean, if it was OpenAI released a new model, it would be an afterthought, right?
Yes.
It would be, they've got a new model and it's performing really great, fantastic. But oh no, the Chinese, have built a model that beats the Americans. How dare they?
I mean, the first question that I thought was like, why didn't we think of that approach, right?
Yes. Because I had that conversation. I'm sure Rich is going to jump in there too, but I had that conversation with a US pro-capitalist, pro-US tech guy the other day, and he's like, "Oh, what are you talking about? They stole all their tech from OpenAI. They copied OpenAI." I said, if that was the case, why doesn't OpenAI have the same compressed intelligence capabilities? Why is this performing better? Oh, because OpenAI's got it in the lab, and it's like, people contorting themselves. But I think we're getting distracted. I think that, if you're American, then, this could be an issue for you. But there's a very clear lesson out of this is over the next few years, we're going to see this again and again, the scaling laws coming into place where we are going to see more and more efficient AI models emerging. And that is what DeepSeek teaches us now, that it is going to be possible to have these massive leaps in efficiency of these systems that don't require the massive training data sets and massive data centers and things like that. Most likely, that's what this is showing us.
100%. And if you look at it at a higher level, it was like nobody in the West was focusing on the optimization part, and for the reasons that we all understand. DeepSeek focused on optimization and therefore innovated like that, and the optimization was substantial, and therefore we have this improvement, which is better for everybody for the sector in the long run. Let's make that clear. I think the big questions are what does it mean in the short and medium term for our sector and other industries, and I've been thinking of how fast and how it will trickle down into what Klarna is doing, what JP Morgan is doing, what is happening in our industry. I think that's really the important part to talk about.
Theo Lau. Welcome.
Sorry. Hello, guys. Sorry I'm late.
No, we only just kicked off. We're a bit late as
Yeah,
well. So
it's a little messy in the morning.
no problem.
Joy of parenthood. So I was listening to you guys as I was backstage as well, and I think it's fascinating. One thing that is baffling, and it should not be, is how all of a sudden people are like, "Oh my God, why is this coming out from the blue?" As you say, Brad and Effie, like, who, how is someone else being able to do this? But I think this is what we were talking about last week as well, right? For anyone who has been paying attention to the development in the sector, even in the last 2 years, right? There has been numerous reports coming out from Stanford, from all of these institutions that says China has been leapfrogging in terms of patents, in terms of research. Even last year, Kai-Fu Lee, he has been publishing results from his company in China and saying how the model and the results of it has been going amazingly well. So this shouldn't be a surprise. And if to your point, what does this mean to banking sector? I wrote a little bit about that in my book that's coming up, but I think it's getting a little complicated. Now, if this is a perfect world where we don't have the demarcation between physical borders, I think this is very positive news because it induces us to actually use and leverage what works best from each community and company and do the best for our industry. But unfortunately, there's also the challenge of, data sovereignty. There's the challenge of who have access to this technology. And then there's also the challenge of all the geopolitical concerns, right? So I don't know. There are talks that some senators do not want anyone in the US to be using China AI or Chinese AI, whatever that means. So if you were a global bank like a JPM of the world, what are you going to do?
I mean, I think that, first of all, already we see that it's not so easy to put borders and walls and fences on software. This is software, right? It's not hardware. It's software. And already you see that not only NVIDIA has integrated DeepSeek in NIM, Microsoft has, IBM has, Dell and Hugging Face has, Perplexity AI has, everybody has done that. Now, does that mean that tomorrow morning, JP Morgan, BNY Mellon, the ones that have these huge AI labs already, are they going to be using these? No, they're not going to be using them. But I mean, it doesn't matter for the industry because at the end of the day, this is giving the next standard, the next benchmark, and everybody's going to try and catch up. So I don't mind, if it's DeepSeek or XYZ, the standard for the industry has changed, and the industry is going to move towards that sooner than later. And I think that it's very clear that the first and big beneficiaries are going to be the developers. Nobody can stop them. So I'm going to be looking more what Stripe will be doing, which is more, of a developer, ecosystem enterprise rather than looking at the consumer facing ones. And I think that we're going to be seeing, ROI there, not from Klarna, not from JP Morgan and BNY Mellon. That's what I think. And the industry is going to catch up because this is software. Now they understand what they did. They understand the distilling and just
I don't even know if we should still just call this software anymore. I think, Rich, give us some perspective. Like the US went crazy over this stuff, but give us a perspective of what it was like in China, seeing the contortions of the US tech bros in respect to DeepSeek.
Look, it's a very sad recurring theme. let's take a step back.
is.
Let's look about 3 years ago. 3 years ago, the Financial Times all over the world was shocked. We're stunned. The Chinese have hypersonic missiles. A year ago, the same thing. We're shocked. We're stunned. And Huawei developed a 7 nanometer chip for their phones, right? And now again, we've got artificial intelligence and we've got the next thing saying, oh my God, we're shocked. Well, how many damn times are you going to be shocked? China innovates. It's an innovation powerhouse. And that concept of we're also surprised is absolutely.
If you're surprised, you just
insane.
simply haven't been
That's what I'm
paying
saying.
attention.
Fool me once, shame on, what is it? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Well, again, it's this constant battle of we're so surprised. China is graduating 8 times the number of STEM graduates per year compared to the United States. 3 times the level if you're looking at PhD levels. They've got innovation focused on what they don't have. Their innovation program for AI was focused directly on the lack of ability to get large amounts of chips to scale in the manner that the Americans were doing it. And we're surprised. You cut them off of chips, and then, oh my God, we're so surprised that China came up with a way to use lower grade chips, less electricity. They were forced to. They didn't have any other way. So, but it's this, I don't understand. I really honestly don't understand why the West and the pundits in the West feign this shock and awe every time China comes up with a new invention. And,
Absolutely.
it was only 2 or 3 months ago where the Chinese highlighted their new stealth aircraft, when everybody is again shocked. So it's just the same thing repeating. But now let me go into something that links to what Theo was saying. This, and Effa, you made this point too, this is good for all of humanity. And while it's China's invention for today, it's going to be the world's invention for tomorrow. And frankly, China doesn't care whether JP Morgan ever uses their software. But what they are pretty pleased about is that India has already committed to spooling up these servers with DeepSeek on it because it's cheap, it works, and it's going to be the AI for everyone else. And not everybody's going to be able to afford the cost of running these the more complex AI models in terms of compute power or of electricity or of licensing fees. And as long as DeepSeek continues to keep this open source, and they have gone more open source than most, this is going to be unstoppable because nobody's going to pay. So it's fundamentally good for society, but please stop with the thing we're also surprised that China innovated again.
Again,
actually,
Theo, you go ahead.
You're gonna laugh, Rich. I actually saw a series of posts lately that says they were not shocked that Chinese innovate. They actually said that they Kuji'd up the results. It was fake. I was laughing so hard, yet again. But to your point, actually, even before what you were talking about, remember cashless? When you were writing about cashless, remember how quickly we went to using QR code for cashless payments? I still remember this. This was like more than 10 years ago. When I told somebody that, the reaction I got, and I still get, people are like rolling their eyes. So what? And now everyone is trying to do the same model, right? So I think the notion of constraints fuel innovation is really true. And I don't know how we can actually teach others and probably instill the ideas in others that innovation can happen anywhere else beyond your own backyard.
I get, so there's a side point to that, which is innovation can't happen anywhere else except in Silicon Valley. Innovation can't happen, ready, in a country that is not perfectly free. innovation can't happen without the venture capitals. There's this whole list of reasons why innovation doesn't happen. And you can go item by item through this and say, okay, nobody in Bulgaria during the Cold War, at the height of the Cold War, nobody in Russia innovated, nobody in Bulgaria, nobody in Cuba. No, everybody has innovation. And there may be optimal conditions for innovation, and that's fine. We can talk about that. But the reality is everybody innovates. And certainly a technological powerhouse like China, under constraints, is going to innovate tremendously. It's just what they do. So again, there shouldn't be this constant shock. Oh, I'm so surprised.
I think that's a great point, Richard, and it goes against the Silicon Valley narrative, which has been that you need billions of dollars, millions of dollars to grow, because growth is connected with, hiring more people, especially in the service industry, right? So wait a minute, we are now in the agentic AI era. Maybe that is invalidated completely, and you can have a multi-million-dollar company, right? Maybe even trillion-dollar company that doesn't need that capital to scale, right? Maybe we are in that era because we've believed in that mantra, and maybe we are close to disrupting it.
And perhaps I couldn't agree more, and perhaps that is one of the greatest things that we got out of DeepSeek, that shows that AI is not just for Silicon Valley. It's not just for big tech. You can play in this game too. And if you're India, if you're China, if you're Europe, which Europe has a tremendous amount of brain power, doesn't have the VC and the innovation chops of Silicon Valley, but this is a market that everybody can play in. And I think that's going to be so important for AI adoption going forward for everyone, not just those tied to Silicon Valley and big tech. And I think that's the most powerful message that China's DeepSeek got out to the world.
Maybe let's and shout out to Kurt for your comment, Kurt. We appreciate it. Shout out to all of those of you who are joining us on the live stream right now. And if you've got some questions for us, please let us know, and we'll try and get to those. Let's talk a bit, team, about where these innovations, if we start seeing this type of scaling happening regularly, where AI is getting more and more powerful, how that's likely to impact the space. I want to just talk you through a concept that I've had an epiphany on recently, which is, we've had a lot of debate about when are we going to get AGI? When are we going to see artificial general intelligence? In the meantime, O3, OpenAI's model and DeepSeek, when we test these against human cognition tests, there's not a test that they don't outperform humans on now. Maths, sciences, written communication, etc. It's almost like this sort of standard we've put for AGI as a hurdle. We've blown through that, because in terms of pure human intelligence on a testing regime, at least, these models are fairly consistently outperforming not only the average humans, but the best humans. In fact, I saw a presentation from a Google AI researcher on Monday evening, and he said this is the year when AI will be the best programmer in the world. And that's a hell of a sort of milestone to think about. It has to change everything. It has to change the way we think about constructing businesses, right?
Let me disagree a bit, Brett, because
yeah, I love that.
I think that the example that you're bringing, programming, is not comparable to our language abilities, and the reason is that programming is a language like mathematics, It's very well defined. It's not subject to interpretation. It has very limited alphabet or words, very limited, and that's why it's these large language models are doing very well with programming. And I do think that the area of where developers are important, and in innovation companies in fintech that are really um, uh, based on programming, we're going to see a lot of innovation there, like agentic AI is a good example. However, I don't think that we are there with natural language, because it's still contextual, and it's still, we have so many
I can give you that, Effie, but I will just say, if that is the case, and I'm sure we could test it, but even if that is the case, it won't be long before that milestone's under the bridge as well, right?
Yes, I can give you that, but let's think about what banking is about, and how much of it is about programming and financial data, like numbers, right? And how much of it is language and relationships and text, and connecting all that, plus the fact that it is an industry that's heavily regulated. I think that what I'm trying to say is that we are going to see more progress, faster adoption in anything that has to do with coding. So if we were to imagine in a world that suddenly buys the blockchain, leaps in the blockchain era, or, code is law, and crypto and stable coins and CBDCs and everything, I think that we would be seeing big ROI there. But in our current world, I think that it will be slowed down, not so much. We'll see benefits in fraud, where there's a lot of numerical transaction data, but not in capital markets. There's too much text.
Yeah, I mean, this is Paolo Cerrone's line of reasoning as well. We have this debate very often, Effie. But I think
we're not in the same family, but
no. But he says there's too much organic unpredictability in financial markets for AI to disrupt that. I think there's ample enough patterns for pattern recognition with AI. But let me ask you it this way: is now that we see the trajectory, I thought Eric Schmidt's comments on this a couple of months ago on Squawkbox were very good. He said, the scaling laws don't show any sign of prohibiting the application of artificial intelligence. He said the arrival of non-human intelligence is a really big deal, but he said within 5 years we're going to see massive disruption, and DeepSeek sort of reinforces that. So here's the question: is what part of banking is safe from AI? Because I would argue nothing is safe from AI disruption in banking. And Richard obviously agrees with me.
But why safe as if it's a threat? I mean, it's a good thing. It can be.
It is a threat if you're a traditional bank and you're running a core system. And
No, I disagree though, Brad. I think to Effie's point,
good.
there are many ways that I think the minute we start framing a technology as being a threat to what we do, we change the conversation. There are things that I think we can do differently, and there are a lot of things that we need to do differently. And I think that's how we can approach it first. It's not going to change banking upside down on day one. We all know that. There's just too much stuff that needs to be done there. Wherever that we can start cherry picking the use cases that make sense and invest in it and make that better. For example, cybersecurity, which is a huge focus right now. I think that is a very good thing. it's just my personal opinion, obviously. Of course, it is going to change jobs. There's no doubt about it. Of course, governments and policies and private institutions and everyone alike need to start thinking about what are you going to do in the next 3 to 5 years? Because I've read so many reports that say that we need to start rethinking education. We need to start rethinking upskilling, all of that. That's all real. But that's real for any other technology that we bring into the ecosystem. It's no different than, Office. When you start being able to use things, presentation, Word document, spreadsheets, and what have you, it changes how we work, and we need to learn how to work with the new technology. If I dare
collaborative
to quote,
intelligence,
exactly,
right?
collaborative. If I dare to quote our friend Paulo again, see, he's not here, but he's here with us in spirit. He say, the future of banking is not about AI taking over human. It's about the humans that can use AI to leapfrog, and I think that is very true.
Yeah. So I also want to redirect the conversation, not, what's going to happen to the bankers and those running the banking businesses. What's going to happen to everybody, as in retail individuals and businesses that need financial services? Will we be served better? Will our assets increase? Can AI provide me with more assets beyond the traditional ones? If I have land and houses and I don't know what else, can it unlock value? So my IP, my intangible assets are tangible. Can I use those to improve my life? It's those types of things that need to be discussed, that are not discussed. We understand that even with digital banking, Brett, and argue against me, they're not looking after their customers. They're looking after their business so they keep the customers and make profits. They're not thinking about me and thinking what's better for me and saying, okay, go to another bank to do your insurance, to do your investments, to do your payments because it's better for you. Which bank wakes up in the morning and thinks what's best for me? Can I
No, but
have
I think just like, people today choose an app, I mean, you look at the way Revolut and Nubank have changed the landscape in their respective markets or Wise, where people will use that in their vernacular. I'll Revolut you some funds, or I'll Wise you for some funds, or whatever. That's already happening. So digital's already has changed this. But let's get to some of the questions if we can, guys. I've got a couple of questions. Let's start with Carl's question. AI agency is going to be massive this year. You're going to be hearing a lot about agentic AI all this year. We're going to start to see early examples of that. It's going to be huge. Maybe I'll throw this one at you, Rich, and anyone else that wants to jump in can. But Rich, let's kick off with you. From a legal perspective, do you think we are going to have a framework for identifying if certain actions have occurred, have been initiated, like, for example, a payment or access to credit? If that has been triggered by an AI agent, will we need to know that is an AI agent versus the way it happens today where we assume it's done by a human?
So the answer is yes, we really desperately need a new set of rules for financial markets, not just retail accounts, but trading and others. But we're not going to get it. And it's going to be the analogy with plane crashes, where the plane has to crash first, and then they do the accident investigation, and the next generation of airplanes learns what went wrong. So we're going to be in crash mode, and then the people will start to figure out that, or governments will start to figure out that there's a need for this new form of regulation, because we already saw an analogous period when we used algorithmic trading, and algorithmic trading brought forth a number of flash crashes on the New York Stock Exchange, on NASDAQ, and several others. So, you had to have the technology, then you had to have the crash, and then everybody said, oh my God, we need to control this, or we need some rules set on this. And it's going to be the same thing with agentic AI, because agentic AI is now going to give you, me, and others the ability to control when I want to do a foreign exchange transaction, at what rate, how much money to put into an account.
And we're going to trust it because it's going to get it right every time. Right?
So it's going to be something we need to control and look at.
I think, Rich, I agree, especially for our industry, right? And you literally just said the magic word, Brad. Trust. Trust is the foundation of our industry. We have to have transparency. We have to have accountability. So with just that, you have to let people know whether or not you're dealing with AI or you're not. And I think beyond that, from a legal perspective, in addition to thinking about whether or not we need to disclose, et cetera, there's also the copyright question, right? That's been lingering for the last 2 years. Who has the right to use what AI produces? Can you copyright it? I think there are a lot of legal perspective as to what you cannot do, and that changes with different jurisdiction. We've seen Japan taking a different approach as to, what EU is doing, which is more pro consumer rights and protection. We have seen the US taking a different approach than what Australia is doing. So I think there's still a lot of nuances that we still need to solve before, we can get to the good stuff. But we will get there, and Rich,
we will
talk about crash.
We will. Effie, well, consider this: 95% of flying today is done on autopilot, so it's not such a leap to think that single pilot operations with an AI might get us to the next piece. But Effie, do you want to have a shot at this one from Bob Hernandez? Would you say the biggest transformation will come from areas like embedded finance and blockchain with the help of Gen AI? I think it's important to differentiate in the conversation the difference between generative AI and agentic AI, that they're two broadly different sets of technology as well.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. Having spent a week in Davos recently during the World Economic Forum.
Name dropper.
A name dropper. Why do I say that? Because really, it again reminded me that blockchain and AI is, I want to say, a killer combination for those that go after it. And we are seeing that. Why? Because blockchain can provide that digital identity verification, authentication that is needed, that Theo and Rich talked about. And it's happening. If you look at in the crypto world, we already have, wallets, bots. They're basically AI agents, and they're acting in the DeFi world. There's more agentic AI in a simple form already happening. So we can see how that can work there. Now, having said that, I absolutely agree with all of you that we need the legal framework, and we will get it. And a rich example of what happened, how regulation reacted when high frequency trading scaled. That's why at that time there was developed what's called the market integrity framework, which has principles for regulation to sort of frame that. And I hope that those principles are used for this case. And also we'll have to solve the digital identity puzzle on the internet, basically. Maybe this will be a good thing, and we'll solve it because of agentic AI.
So I think at this point, it might be useful for us to invite an AI into the conversation in real time. How about that? Let's see if I can get this to work. All right, here we go. Tab. Where's the tab? Here we go.
Never a dull moment when you talk with Brad.
Can you guys see that?
He, she, or they?
They.
Oh, we don't use those pronouns anymore, Effie. Did you get the memo?
Yes. All right. Let's so. Hey, chat. Tell me what. Let me say. How is agentic and generative AI likely to impact the banking sector over the next 5 years? Go. Let's see.
Let's rate it how generic the answers are, or how
Hyper-personalized banking and autonomous finance, AI-driven customer service, fraud detection. This is what you were talking about, Effie. AI-powered lending and credit decisions. But this is bank speak. This is bank speak that, it doesn't even really got into how it's going to affect individuals, right? I mean, this is where the model is really, sort of focusing on how the industry speaks,
it's
right?
apparent because the industry reports are dominating the space, right? The internet, right? And it's like rehashing that language. And I think that we have to change that narrative and talk about how soon will these tech advancements really empower individuals. Because
so I think what I'd like to say is what I just did there in terms of this process. This is something I'm getting used to doing every day. I know you guys are also experimenting with this tech, but Theo mentioned it earlier, collaborative intelligence, right? I think that's where this tool is super useful for us in terms of really changing this dialogue.
I agree. I think it can prompt us to think about different ways of looking at a problem. Would it replace everything that we do? Would I actually trust, whatever you produce and use it as an article? Absolutely not. It literally reads like a McKinsey plus, Accenture plus IBM report mishmash together. I think we all have our own.
Let me try it. Let me try a different one then.
Yeah, use a different one.
All right, how about that query, right?
Good thing I had a big screen here, Brett.
Why don't you tell it, Brett? I am Brett King. Say something that will shock me. You dare to say something about the future of banking that will shock Brett King. I think that's the right prompt.
All right, what could you say about the future of banking that would shock me?
Brett King.
You should use the name of the author.
Shock me, Brett King, with everything you know about the predictions and forecasts. I'm under pressure to type. I've made in the past.
Give me a prediction that's wild, even for Brett King.
Let's push the boundaries. We'll trigger the death of banking as an industry. Woohoo!
What?
Wait, so Brett, you need to read through it. Make sure that is not parroting what you wrote in one of your books. I am highly skeptical of this now.
Well, look, wealth will be decoupled. I haven't spoken about that. Largest asset owner. There you go, Effie. Wow. Final thought, the most shocking thing, banking won't be for humans anymore. And I've said that. It's not shocking, ChatGPT. I have said that before. On that note, all right, guys, let's wrap it up. So let's I guess let's go around the horn before we wrap up this wonderful conversation from everybody, and just ask you guys give us a bit of thinking about where we'll see big AI announcements this year and in the space, and who do you think are going to be the beneficiaries of this type of tech we're seeing, like DeepSeek?
In banking?
Banking, payments, wallets, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, financial services.
Yeah.
I was going to say beyond financial services.
Beyond. You could say, you look at talk about healthcare, like I think healthcare is going to be
Look,
disrupted even
can I
more than
make a
banking, right?
confession? Can I make a
Sure.
confession? I haven't integrated in StreamYard my Perplexity AI, which if I had, I would just prompt what you asked, and I would get, the answer that I should give. And now, I'm in you put me on the spot, and I have to think without my AI agent, and I'm starting to feel, insecure without my AI agent to say something meaningful.
I'm not
So-
insecure.
Wait, Effie, am I gonna meet you or your
I
AI agent in Milan?
I tell you. So this is what I just asked it. Who is the king of fintech?
Oh, jeez, come on, Brad.
and
Come on,
you had the audacity,
I haven't trained it. I have not trained it to say that, by the way.
and Brett, you had the audacity to say that I like name dropping when I said about the West.
Okay, I'll cop that.
Have that
All
out,
right.
right?
All right.
What have you guys
Consider
been
me
drinking?
chastised. A Pinot Grigio, actually, but yes. I mean, in my defense, it is 9:15 p.m. in the evening here in Bangkok. So
Come on, time zone doesn't matter, okay? You travel.
it's always 5 o'clock somewhere.
exactly.
Yes.
Okay, guys, let's close it with. I want to say this statement. I can't wait to see a startup, a fintech startup that is really an AI native fintech startup. What does that look like? It can't be an improvement on, Revolut and Nubank and those. So that's what I'm looking for. I want to see how that innovation, how that cohort will come about. And I don't think that it is about, waiting for some agentic AI from, a startup or Salesforce and integrating it into an existing bank. It has to be from scratch. So that's what I'm excited.
All right. That's your big takeaway. Thank you, Effie.
It's
Rich?
on my radar.
Yeah, I'm kind of like Effie in this. So here's where you're not going to see it. You're not going to see it in an incumbent bank this year. None of the big incumbent banks is going to say, "Oh, here's your customer service. Here's your customer-facing Gen AI system." The banks are struggling. Yes, I understand that they're the JP Morgans of the world and some of the large global institutions that have their own AI programs, but for the major part, I was reading a report just like a month or so ago that the numbers are a little fuzzy, but it was something like 68% of the banks can't even get their APIs to work properly on a regular basis. So if you read the McKinseys of the world, if you read some of the stuff from big tech, we're all going to hyper-personalized banking. Meanwhile, the banks are running systems this is what I used to sell. I used to work for IBM, and we would be working with banks that were running systems that were from 2010. This is already a decade out of date, and now they're probably running the same ones. So, the concept that your bank, your incumbent institution, is going to suddenly be transformed by AI within the next 12 months is bunk. Yes, they may come up with a better chatbot.
Amen.
Yes, there may be some stuff, but these guys don't have the data to hyper-personalize anything. And their data is in these big silos that are not broken down, and it's going to be tough. Now, the one group that can do something are, of course, the Revoluts of the world. And by the way, ready? I just became a Revolut customer here in Italy. Long story, but even I got to tell you something. Just an aside. I run DBS Singapore digital banking, which is a world accepted great platform. Revolut kills them. It's so smooth. I give them so much credit for what they've done. But my point is, only the Revoluts might be able to, but your local bank, your incumbent bank, even if it's a relatively large one, you're not going to see any, oh my God, I'm so amazed by what AI is doing for me now in my account for another 2 years.
Awesome. Well, Theo, you can round it out, and then I'll have some closing comments as well, if you guys don't mind.
All right, I'll do it quick, 15 seconds. I think the next boom that we'll see in financial services won't be anything sexy. It'll be something that's practical. It'll be something that actually help to save the bottom line of the bank as well as consumers. It will be something around security. And I don't think it's going to be a huge, big announcement and tell everyone, hey, look at what we've done. I think it's going to be a little bit more subdued behind the scene, but that's just me. Focus on what matters.
Awesome. I think that it is far more likely that a Revolut or a Nubank or a WeBank or a Stripe or a Klarna will be able to deploy artificial intelligent agency models and smart contracting much easier and much faster than the likes of JP Morgan Chase and HSBC, even though they have big projects on this, because their tech stack agility and their cultural agility. I think that's what you have to be really concerned about today, looking at these developments of artificial intelligence. The ability to deploy this, the gap in ability to deploy this quickly and have it really make real impact to your business is only going to get wider in my perspective based on those two factors.
And let's have another LinkedIn Live on that topic, exactly, only on that topic, Brett. Okay?
I'm sure. And we'll have to get Paolo in because he feels very strongly about this as well. Rich Turrin, Theo Lau.
Paolo was here anyway.
He's here with us in spirit.
He is. Shout out to our brother from another mother, Paolo Cerrone. Check out The Banker's Bookshelf, a new podcast that he's launched recently. And thank you to the couple hundred people that have been watching us and participating in the live conversation. We enjoy your support. Effie, where can people follow your musings if they want to keep track?
Yeah, I'm a LinkedIn queen. I've been a LinkedIn queen for a long time, but also on YouTube, Conversational Insights, and on Twitter, and on everywhere, and on TikTok, wherever you frequent. I'm there, but the big place is LinkedIn.
Rich?
LinkedIn, I love it. I've been there forever, but I got to tell you, my best writing now is now on Substack, and so I just am getting clobbered on LinkedIn. I write about China. I get somebody.
That's why you're getting clobbered on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah, and so I'm writing a lot more on Substack these days. So LinkedIn is great. I'd love to connect with you. And if you disagree with anything I've said, send me a message. But also, I'm writing on Substack and loving the freedom over there.
Perfect. And Theo?
I am mostly on LinkedIn and also run a podcast called One Vision. And most excitingly, I have a new book coming up called Banking on Artificial Intelligence, coming up in 3 weeks. So there you go. Thank you for having me.
One Vision's an amazing name for a podcast. It was also an amazing Queen hit song, of course, with the most amazing opening guitar riff you've ever heard. So anyway, that's it for this live session. I don't know why we got into Queen music at the end for AI. Well, I do actually, but you can check out me at Brett King. Check me out on LinkedIn. And also don't forget to follow Breaking Banks, the #1 fintech podcast in the world, and The Futurist, the #1 futurist podcast in the world. Much love to you guys, and thank you for joining us on this impromptu live session. And thank you to my fellow chatters on the live. We'll see you next time. Until then, stay well.